well. So I've done just under 18,000 steps today so far. So, which is good. Right. So we're actually live.
17,800 more than me.
Well, I see you like the Vikings exercising now. So what's
about
happened?
2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
Too busy.
And so we just wait for a few people to come on, and then I'll do the proper introduction. But I've just read a really good book from a guy called BJ Fogg, and it's about tiny habits. So even if you get your trainers out and they're ready by the side of your bed, that's a tiny step, you know. So you just got to open that door and go. And I know that, you know, yeah.
Sorry,
so,
you go.
No, I was going to say, I know when, you know, at the times I had, you know, going back pre-COVID, I didn't want to go to the gym, and I thought, you know what, I'd just go for 5 minutes. I'll go for 5 minutes, and actually you're there a lot longer than 5 minutes, aren't you? So great.
I think for most people, I know definitely for me, it's just that it's that thing of just getting your kit on and getting out the door. If I can do that, you know, it's all good. And like you said, you know, when I used to train a lot about 10 years ago, believe it or not, look at me now. I used to do triathlons.
Amazing.
Yeah, Anne and I used to train like nutters. But yeah, no, that was all about set out the kit the night before, all your kit ready to get dressed. So you got up, it's there, no excuse, no rummaging around. Up, kit on, out the door, get it done.
Well, we're joined by Vicky from Location, who says, my phase, really looking forward to this. And can you confirm that Kristjan is definitely going to do a triathlon again? And will he announce live on there when he's going to do that? Vicky, I'm glad you said that, not me, because I didn't want to put any pressure on Kristjan. So
I'll do a triathlon of fast food, alcohol, and dancing. How's that? That's much more likely now. I don't know.
You're a winner.
Vicky,
you're a winner. So let's introduce you, and thank you everybody who's joining now and everybody who's watching on replay. Thanks very much. I hope it's sunny where you are. I'm really excited to be joined by Kristjan Byfield, who originally trained as an actor, professional actor, so I want to know what you've been in, and then ended up running an estate agency and a letting agency from the age of 24. I was only going to say you only look 25 now, but you've been telling me you've been doing it for 16 years, which is fantastic. So you set up Base Properties based in Shoreditch. You've also involved and set up Agents Here to Help, which I'm sure we're going to talk about. And you've also set up a prop tech company called The Depository as well. So you've been quite quiet, really, haven't you?
Yeah. I've just been sat on my hands, not doing much the last few months.
So and you've been described. No, I presume this is a compliment, as the most unagent agent in the industry.
Oh, I like that. I'll take that.
So any idea why you've been described as the most unagent agent in the industry?
So look, I mean, for starters, you know, we've never been part of the suited and booted brigade. I've nothing against it. You know, I think each to your brand at the end of the day. But I've always taken the view that I think it's always more important about how you conduct yourself than necessarily per se how you present yourself. And look, it's not going to be everyone's cup of tea. I'm sure there's people I've met on valuations who, when I've walked out the door, they're a bit like, oh, who's the guy in jeans and t-shirt? We're not instructing him. That was a bit slapdash. But I think what you convey in your personality and the knowledge you convey is a lot more important. And I always take the viewpoint that if you're going to work damn hard, which I do and all of our staff do, I was taking the viewpoint you should feel comfortable in yourself doing it, you know. So look, if you feel comfortable sat at your desk in a 3-piece suit with a tie, great. You know, we had a guy a few years ago who, when we hired him, and he sort of really apologetically sort of asked, he was like, I really like doing, you know, I like coming to work in a suit and tie. I like it. It makes me feel, no, that's great. You come in, you do that thing. It's like that's brilliant, because then, you know, we'll send you out to the clients where the suited and booted thing is really what they expect and what they're looking for. But, you know, for the rest of us, I just like feeling comfortable at work, and it again goes with that whole premise of, with us, what you see is what you get. We're a very sort of transparent agency. We're not going to try and sell a client something that isn't in their best interests. You know, we've been out to many valuations over the years where, you know, we've had a client inquire about full management, you know, and then we go and meet them and they've just refurbished the property and they live around the corner. And it's like, well, we could manage it for you, but honestly, with everything brand new and you living nearby, why don't you run the management for now? You get stuck, you give us a call, we can take it over. But, you know, do you really want to pay us £1,000 for a flat that's almost certainly going to have nothing wrong with it? So I think, you know, that's how it's always worked for us. And I think the other side of the sort of non-agent thing is we do have targets. You know, that goes without saying. Any business needs to have a focus in terms of revenue and growth. But I think with most agencies, everything starts at sort of targets and comes out from there. With us, it's always been a focus on how we do our job, both sort of internal operational structure, but also from a personal level, how we deliver that. That has always come first and foremost. And we started the company safe in the knowledge that if you build a company around that, it might take us longer to grow the business because we're not out there selling. But the clients that we get are very loyal, have a very good understanding of the value of what we offer as a service, and therefore discussions around fees, etc., just don't really come into play. And so, yeah, I think that's always been our thing. Is it's always been about the service and the experience and our operational efficiency, and faith in that delivering on those will deliver some, if not all, of the growth that we want to, without being a really focused sales operation where it's constant touting.
Okay, brilliant. So let's go back and then we'll come back and talk about it. So, professional actor.
Yeah.
What were you in?
The route into being an estate agent.
Obviously. That's where we all started, wasn't it?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, so look, trained much to the dismay of my father, who, although he's an artist, I think his dismay was more he put me through an expensive boarding school education. And then at the end of it, I turned around and went, I want to be a stage actor. So he was delighted about that. But yeah, look, trained as a stage actor for 3 years, worked as a stage actor for about 2. I loved the training. I hated being a stage actor, a professional stage actor. It's a very, very weird business. I've always liked that element of, you know, if you have a certain sort of competency or skill set and you're hardworking, that should be sort of, you know, there should be a sort of ratio of reward for that. And I think the thing is with acting, there is no correlation to that. It is just, you know, there are so many differing elements, whether the casting director likes you, you know, whether they know you, etc., etc. So I didn't like that sort of unknown side of sort of work and reward within the industry. As strange as it sounds, as someone who decided to train as a professional stage actor, I'd actually, because obviously going through school, doing amateur productions and stuff like that, you know, I think the longest we ever did I think the longest show I'd ever done was like, we did a week of shows. I'd never really thought what it would be like to do a stage show for months on end, the same show, most days, 2 shows a day. And, you know, I was very lucky when I graduated. I got a fantastic part in a great show. I landed one of the lead roles in Ben Elton's Popcorn, which is a sort of satirical take on natural born killers. And I got the psychopath, like hillbilly serial killer lead part in it, which is hilarious, going to work each day with a big I trimmed all this back to be a proper hillbilly beard and a skinhead, and I had fake tattoos on me. And I was a bit more hench then as well. So it was quite funny going on the tube to the show each day. I'd get on the tube and I'd notice people slowly sort of shuffle away from me to give me room on the tube. But it was, it was a dream role to get. And again, loved the rehearsal process. Show opened, and it wasn't even a massive run. I think it was like a 6-week run. And at the end of the first week, I was so bored. So bored. End of our first week, I think we did 12 shows in the first week. And I was like, I'm done. And the thought of another 6 weeks, and that was a short contract. I've got friends who've been acting a lot, and particularly like on the musical side, I've got friends who've gone on 6, 12, 18-month tours for musicals, be that around the UK or be that a contract at the West End, or, I've got friends who've been in all the sort of Starlight Express, Mamma Mia, all this sort of stuff. And even just talking about it now, the thought of doing a show like that for 18 months, pretty much twice a day, every day, just shakes me to the core. So it was a very eye-opening, like, oh my God, I've just trained for a career I don't want to do now. And sort of tried to move across into sort of TV film, which is quite difficult. It's quite a different style of acting for starters. And obviously I think even more competitive than stage in terms of spaces. And I did a little bit of sort of what we call sort of short films or fringe stuff, which was fascinating, but incredibly badly paid. And yeah, just sort of increasingly over that 2 years, just got more and more disenchanted with acting. And a state agency just really came along by chance. My dad's always been fascinated in architecture. He's an artist, formerly worked in graphic design and advertising, but always been passionate about architecture. And we've traveled a lot throughout my sort of childhood. So, he'd often ask me about different architectural styles and blah, blah, blah. And my mum at different stages, we've always bought project houses. We've lived in loads of different houses, but they've always been projects that we've totally refurbished, extended. They've done a little bit of property investment. So I think that sort of property interest thing was there. I always found property interesting. And yeah, really it was I decided I needed to take a break from acting to figure out what was next. I wasn't at that time even sure I wanted to leave. I just knew I wanted a break and a chance to make some fairly reasonable money. And it was just by chance. I at the time I was living in Muswell Hill in a tiny little sort of studio garden flat, and round the corner was a recruitment company. And I walked past their shop one day and they had a little sign saying trainee negotiators wanted. And that was the start of the journey, really. I went in, had a chat. They told me a bit more about the job. And that just sort of piqued my interest. They didn't actually place me with anything, because at the time I didn't have a driving license. So they were like, look, that's going to be a challenge for you to get a negotiator role without a driving license. But I just went off, started shopping around, found an agency in Islington who'd been going. They were about a year old and they were sort of looking to hire their first trainee. And I went and saw the founders, Emma and Eric, and we just got on really well from day dot. And they sort of liked my personality, and they said, look, don't worry about the driving license thing. They said, you'll be able to walk to like 80% of our listings anyway. And they said, don't worry, we'll buy a scooter. We'll pay for you to do a CBT test. And there you go. You've got a motorbike to run around on. And that was that. And never looked back, really. Jumped on it. Absolutely loved it from day dot. Really liked the scene in Islington. They had a small portfolio, but anyone who knows Islington will know Upper Street is probably a third estate agency offices, or at least it was back then. It might have thinned out a little bit now, but and I just really loved that buzz of a little bit of competition. We used to do a lot of split comms with the bigger agents in the area, and that was it really. That sort of lit the passion. And that sort of lit my interest. And from there went to another company, which was still like a single branch independent, much more established, probably at least been running 10 years. But, you know, that was a very different learning lesson. On the surface, they looked very professional, had a lot of different services, but turned out under the surface, there was a lot of bad things happening at that business. A lot of rent and deposits were going missing, a lot of unpaid contractors. A lot of it was hidden from us because the business was run over 2 sites. So we had all of our sales and letting staff in our sort of showroom, and then they had a sort of admin office where all the real stuff happened. And that's where I met my business partner, Anne. And we bonded over very much around lettings, really. We bonded over the fact that, you know, we generally weren't happy with how pretty much at that time all operations treated lettings. That it was treated like a sort of poor cousin to sales, but also we felt that landlords were pretty shortchanged for what they got, and tenants were just treated like absolute filth by most companies. You know, it was literally just how much money can we charge them in admin and fees, and you don't like it, sod off, we'll find another tenant. And we just felt that there was a different approach to running an agency like that. You know, we felt that lettings could very easily be the core of a property of an agency business, and seeing the loyalty that landlords had at that company, even though they were being treated appallingly, just made us ask the question of, you know, if that's what a landlord's like when they're treated badly, what are they going to be like when they're treated well? And we were right. We've seen that the loyalty that we get, the referrals that we get are immense. And again, you know, what could we create for tenants? What journey could we create for tenants? And again, it's, you know, it's been nice to see that journey, you know, and we've got lots of advocate tenants now who have recommended friends and family come and stay with us. You know, we've been running long enough now that we've got tenants from our first few years who've now become landlords. And based on their experience with us as a tenant, you know, we've had tenants who we haven't spoken to in 10 years who've come back to us having bought a property and gone, based on the way you treated us as a tenant, we don't want to give this flat to anyone else because we want our tenants to be looked after the way you looked after us. So it's nice to see that sort of proof of concept validated down the line. But yeah, that's the really obvious logical career progression from stage acting to lettings agency.
Obviously, well, that's a really inspiring journey, and we're only at 24, and I've got so many questions already from what you said that I want to ask. But how did you, we'll start with the first one, how did you put your acting skills, your training skills into use for estate agency?
So look, I think the thing with acting, it's that it's not that you're not afraid of doing stuff. It's just the fact that you tend to sort of embrace, like, failure is not a bad thing in acting. You know, when you're taught as an actor, the whole rehearsal process is about trying stuff. You know, you can make you take a character to the extremes of what they can be. You make them as evil as possible, as kind as possible, as dramatic as possible. And you take them out into these extremes, and then you sort of scale it back into something that's rounded and believable. And I think, you know, it teaches you, of course, you still get nerves, but it teaches you that none of it really matters. You try something, if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. And I think that's always, you know, I that's given me the belief to approach person. You know, I can pick up a phone to anyone. I can stop someone in the street and chat. I mean, it was one of the things that sort of drew Anne, my partner, to me when we were working at the last company. They used to do quite a lot of sort of organized mail shop days. So it'd be like, right, guys, you know, we've paid TfL for you guys to be standing outside this tube station from 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. and we'd have to rock up with the flyers and do the handing out thing, you know, and most of my colleagues would be sat there sort of hiding behind their flyers, sort of having a quiet cigarette and a chat in the corner because the thought of approaching strangers was horrifying to them. I'd be right up in everyone's faces, you know, in a nice way, but, you know, with a bit of banter, a bit of fun. And And yeah, that sort of drew Anne, because she was like, you're just fearless. And I was like, I'm not fearless. I'm just as terrified as you are. I just don't really care. I don't, what's someone going to say? Sod off, I don't want it. Okay, that's fine. You're having a bad morning. It's, agents aren't everyone's favorite person on the planet. But as long as you're civil and decent and do it with a smile on your face, and you're willing to take feedback, I think, that's sort of that's always my psychology is, if you want to try something, just try it. Just have a crack at it. There's nothing wrong with it going wrong. There's nothing wrong with something not working out. I think, like, as most people know, you'll often learn more from your failures than you will from your successes. And that feeds into what the next sort of iteration of that idea is. So I think that's probably the biggest sort of skill set that's come in. I think obviously now, 15, 16 years later, with video and stuff coming more into the foray, that again, I know there's a lot of people who the thought of sitting in front of a camera like this, chatting, whether it's one-to-one or in a panel or whatever, just absolutely fills them with dread. So yeah, on the flip side, I'm very happy to sit on a camera with pretty much anyone. So in a self-publicist sort of way, obviously now that sort of plays into it a bit more. But yeah, I think those are the two sort of main skill sets that sort of transfer over from my acting days.
Okay, so let's just say hello to a few people. So Vicky says she's happy to run a triathlon with you. That is your version.
Oh, great, good. That's my version, Vicky. That's good.
Owen, thanks very much for joining us. Mark Worrell from that exceptional world-class agency podcast has asked a question. So be interested to know if you guys think someone could be a great sales agent and great lettings agent, or are the character traits required different? So get you to think about that. And Sarah Edmondson, the exceptional CEO of Agents Together, has joined us to hear about us talk about Agents to Help. Good. And Agents Together, Sarah.
Hey, Sarah.
Only teasing, we get there. So thanks, everybody, for joining us. Please like it, share it, get the message out there. I love what Kristjan's just said about learning from failures. How to deal with rejection, and actually just try it. Very, very simple. Just try it, get it done, and see what happens and learn from it. And I learned something actually just reading something, that a mistake now is actually a discovery. You're discovering something rather than seeing it as a mistake, and how important language is. So going back to Mark's question, be interested to know if you guys think someone could be a great sales agent and great lettings agent, or are the character traits required different?
I think it depends a little bit on the business, if I'm honest. I think the first two businesses I worked before I started Base, I actually did a joint role at those. I wasn't an out and out lettings negotiator. The first business was so small that they didn't really have the portfolio to justify me being a sort of single discipline agent. And then the second company I moved to, it just worked quite nicely. I think I was seen predominantly as a lettings negotiator, but then I sort of worked almost like a support neg for the sales team. When it got really busy, I could step in and do extra appointments, extra valuation. So I think you can. I know that my preference, I prefer lettings over sales any day of the week.
I prefer sales over lettings. So there we go. We complement each other.
Exactly. There you go. And that's, that is the beauty of most businesses. I think, for lettings, I like the fact it's a very controlled, you have pretty much control of the whole end-to-end process. If you have good processes and structures and in place, then your success rate should be good. I mean, I think we average less than one failed tenancy application a year, because it's just about running those processes well. I still do a little bit. We still do a handful of sales a year, and I'm the only person in the business who really gets involved with the sales. And it's a nice little bonus of revenue for us. But yeah, I have to say personally, I prefer lettings, and I think from the majority of people I've met over the years, I think most people do have a very clear preference. I think it's quite rare to meet someone who equally likes the two sides of the coin. Because they are, you know, even if you're looking at it just from like a negotiator point of view, lettings is very sort of instant, whereas I think sales is much more about nurturing. It's typically a longer process through understanding what your buyer wants and getting them out of the property. And then you've got that lovely sort of 8 to 20 week conveyancing process to nurture them through. So, look, I'm sure there are staff out there who actually would like that balance. But I think if we're talking about the majority of people, I think they would tend to pull towards one side or the other, just because it is a very different journey that you really go on, both transaction wise, client wise. But I still think that's underpinned by the same fundamentals. I think, you know, a good lettings neg and a good sales neg, you know, they've got the same skill set. They're good communicators. They've got a good knowledge of their portfolio and their client base. You know, they're fundamentally informed and transparent on the knowledge that they impart, sort of underpinned by their own little sales techniques that help get those deals done and get them across the line. But yeah, I think fundamentally they are two different disciplines. So I think it's tough to find someone who's going to be good at both. And I think even if you find someone, they will still lean towards a preference on one of those disciplines.
So I remember, I'm going back now to my time at Green & Co. So I remember doing both sales and lettings. And, you know, I agree with what you were saying earlier. At Green & Co, we initially, lettings was a dark sheep of a family. And, you know, we didn't treat tenants very well. We didn't see, you know, the full circle that tenants could become landlords and they recommend people and stuff like that. And then that totally changed. And I remember, I think I was the only one in West Hampstead doing lettings, and it was July and August, so busier time. And I didn't have at that time a lettings coordinator, and I was doing absolutely everything. So
and none of the good automated stuff.
No, nothing like that. So tenancy agreement, getting all the references,
no wonder you hate
the gas certificate. And I think I must have done about 40-50 lets in those 2 months.
Wow.
And I would come home and I'd be in the shower and I'm thinking, I can't do this. It's just absolutely crazy. So I know you've touched on systems and processes, and I know our good friend is absolutely anal, Spencer. Lawrence, absolutely anal on systems and processes. So a couple of things I want to talk about, actually come back to systems and processes, and also talk about, you know, the journey that you've created for your tenants. So Mark just says sales for him every day. Sarah says totally agree. I think we should ban the word failure. It's all learning. And Sarah, it all boils down to focus, allowing an individual to focus entirely on either sales or lettings enables growth, in my honest opinion. See, I worked out what IMHO is. I'm so impressed. and my kids aren't even here to tell me.
Yeah, you can brag about it later. No, I think Sarah's absolutely bang on the money about failure. I think I can't quote the name of the book because it was years ago I read it, but I remember sort of around the time we started Base reading a book, and it was actually by an English business analyst, but he was talking very much about the sort of the dichotomy between how we look at business in the UK and how they look at business in the USA. And it was very much talking about how, you know, in the UK, if you try something and fail, that often becomes a real chain around your neck. You know, it's something that people will really write you off for, like, oh, they failed at this. But you go over to the US and that's like a badge of honor. You know, you've got on your CV that and it's not just fail once, you could fail 2 or 3 times. And they're like, recruiters like that because it shows that you want to try things, you want to experiment, you want to try and do things differently. You're willing to take risks, you're willing to put yourself on the line. And yeah, it's not about failure, it's about learning. you know, and they look at it as someone who's failed multiple times is going to have learnt so much about what doesn't work. And that is more valuable to a business or organization than actually someone who knows what works because they've just slotted into a business that is running quite nicely. So I always found that that's always something that stuck with me since then.
Thomas Edison didn't do too badly, did he?
Sorry, was that?
Thomas Edison didn't do too badly, did he?
Not too badly, not too shabby, not too shabby. And there's plenty of people. There's plenty of people along the way who've had lots of failures. And I think one of the problems in the British press is that we don't really talk about failures in a positive way. You know, we've got some massive entrepreneur figureheads in the UK, but a lot of them have a lot of failures to their name. But unfortunately, when the media reports it, it's reported in a way that it's almost like they've committed a criminal act, that a business has failed, rather than creating a more rounded picture of, you know, oh, yes, this and this hasn't worked out, but oh my God, they've done this and this round it, or, you know, this and this failed, but the reincarnation of that 3 years later was something that has now completely transformed the market. So, yeah, I think you know that belief of failure or success is you've got to be very careful how you view that about yourself. And it's as we've said, it's fundamentally got to be about learning.
Okay, so Chris says fail forward, and thanks for joining us, Chris. And then Sarah says down with a millennial, Stephen. I've got no idea what the hell she's talking about. She's totally lost me. We're down. So let's come back to the customer journey and the journey that you created. So I know, you know, when we talk about the property tech in a bit and what you're talking about with depository, and we were talking off air beforehand about all the learnings and the tweaks that you make. And obviously you've gone on this journey when you started at 24 with Anne. And how many times have you refined, reimagined, repurposed that customer journey and also the landlord journey? And if I'm an agent watching this today, what advice can you give them about looking at and improving and making adjustments to that customer journey?
So look, how many changes have we made? Hundreds of changes. And I think the point is we'll never stop changing. There will never be a point in time where I will ever be 100% happy with what we do and how we do it.
Are you and Spencer best friends?
I think we're aligned in a lot of ways. We're aligned in a lot of ways about how we look at it. I think,
and Vicky.
Look, I think a lot of good agents, you know, fundamentally, if you create and deliver a good product and service, that removes a lot of stress, a lot of anxiety, a lot of wasted man hours, making excuses, reassuring people, having to replace clients that you've lost because of a poor delivery. What you earn from a client in terms of percentage of fees. So I think, look, it's not the quick fix, right? Building a good service takes time, and it's not even about money. You know, I mean, we started Base we put 10 grand each in, Anne and I, and we had 3 months. We had 3 months to make the company work. That was it. And so we started very lean. We've always been very lean. And so, yeah, I think that was a large part of it. And then I think in terms of the customer journey, and not everyone can do this. I think an important part of being a leader in any business is really understanding what your skill sets are, what you're good at and what you're not good at. I've always felt one of my skill sets are I'm quite sympathetic. I'm quite easily able to slot myself into any given situation and look at it from a particular person's viewpoint without sort of lying to myself to sort of, you know, if I put myself in a landlord's position, I won't go against what I think needs to change, because I'm like, from my agent head, I'm like, no one else does that, or that's not commercially viable. And I think, you know, for us, that's been a really important part of the journey we've gone on, is really looking at what do we think an ideal agency experience looks like. And look, I've talked about this in the past, and I've always said the same thing as well, which is we're very fortunate being a London letting agent. Yes, it's highly competitive here, and I think, you know, London, from numbers wise, is more competitive than any other agency market in the country. But at the same time, you know, the revenue that we earn, I think, you know, our average let only fee is about close to £3,000. And if we manage it, it's close to 4.5. Now, I know there'll be agents watching this now or watching this back who will almost fall off their chair when they hear that, because that might even be higher than their sales fees are. But with that, I've always felt like we have a responsibility. We have a responsibility to deliver something quite exceptional for that. We should not be delivering the same lettings experience that an agent up north or, you know, in Wales, who earns on average, I don't know, 800 quid a let and £1,200 a year fully managed. Yes, there's different cost pressures on the business, but fundamentally not massively different. So I think, you know, I've always taken the viewpoint we have a duty to deliver something quite exceptional based on that fee structure that we earn. And so that's given us quite a bit of freedom to look at things. So, you know, and really out of that came a couple of things that I believe we're still the only agent in the country that does, and we've done it now for 8 years. So in 2012, we rolled out 2 services that we felt very strongly about. So the first of those was something that we called maintenance. And that is very simply, that is teaching our tenants property life skills at the start of a tenancy. So when we move our tenants in, we will teach them all the basics of looking after that property. So we'll teach them how to bleed a radiator, how to balance the pressure on their boiler, where their stopcock valves are, where their meters are, where their fuse box is, how to spot condensation, how to maintain their appliances, how to maintain their drains. Everything that falls within your typical tenant sort of responsibility under a tenancy agreement of general day-to-day maintenance. You know, what we learned in the first sort of, if we started in 2012, what was it? What we learned in the first 8 years of running the business is that there is no standardized knowledge. You know, we've had tenants who are 20 who know everything about a property, and I've had tenants who are 50 years old call me up and say, oh, my lights aren't working. And we've said, oh, have you checked your fuse box? What's a fuse box? Is the response. You know, how do you not know what a fuse box is at 50?
That'd be me.
And
Thank you.
And I think, you know, what we learn, and obviously the opposite is true as well. And so what we learned from that was this. It's very easy when you're a knowledgeable tenant agent who's doing this day in, day out, to think, oh my God, how do you not know this? How do you not know how to do this, how to do that? And it becomes second nature to us. But you have to sort of think for tenants, it's not, you know, you don't know. We deal with tenants from various different countries and cultures and backgrounds, and some are at the bottom end of the financial spectrum and some at the top. And, you know, so for us, we felt, you know, we looked at that and it delivered on so many different levels, because it was something really tangible we could give tenants. That was a skill set that would be useful for the rest of their lives, whether they rent, whether they buy. Just having that really basic skill set of, oh, the radiators aren't heating up. Why are they cold at the top? Oh, I know, I need to bleed them. Boom, boom. Oh God, now the boiler's locked out. Right, I need to top up the pressure. That's something they can use for the rest of their lives. So that was something we could give the tenants. What it gave the landlord is that, you know, we've now been doing that for 8 years. We've worked out that on average, our landlords now spend about £300 a year less in maintenance on their properties, because we've got better educated tenants who take better care of their property, not because we've changed anything about their personality, just because they've got that skill set to address it. And most tenants actually like that empowerment of being able to do certain things themselves. And then the third win was for us. You know, what came out, one of the other things that sort of triggered us doing this was we found in the first month we placed a tenant, that was where we would get 80 to 90% of our maintenance inquiries, because it would be like, oh, the boiler's not working. Oh, the heating's not heating up properly. Oh, the drain isn't draining properly. And by spending this half hour, 40 minutes at the start of a tenancy, which we were pretty much doing anyway, because we were there for the check-in anyway. So we were only actually adding probably a 20-minute slot on top of what we were already doing. But that got rid of all that faffing around. It gave a much nicer start of the tenancy to tenants. It empowered the tenants, and it reduced costs for landlords. So it was just one of those ones that everyone won, you know. And we didn't know if it would be something we'd be able to maintain, if it'd be something we'd be able to work, but it absolutely has, and it does. And you know, it's still something to this day that tenants absolutely rave about. You know, and we still get tenants go, my God, why have I, you know, we've got people who've been renting 5, 6, 7, 8 years, and they'll go, you know, why have I never been shown this before? And it's like, well, you know, at the same time, all this stuff, you know, there is that other little voice in my head, which is like, yeah, but we're not teaching you anything that's rocket science. This is all on YouTube. You can go and educate yourself if you want to.
Look, I think you've just demonstrated there how much value you add. I mean, that's just gold. So for me, you know, if I was a tenant and having that library of videos there, that's going to make a massive, massive difference. I mean, for the tenant, wow, helps them. And I know that they get a digital certificate as well. Yep. So they feel good, which I think is exceptional. Your landlord is a massive win because they're not spending, and you've got more time to go and do what you should be doing, which is to get more properties on and help landlords maximize their investment.
And deal with the complex stuff, you know. You know, we don't need to be dealing with bleeding a radiator. We need to be dealing with that roof leak that Hackney haven't fixed in 6 weeks. You know, that's where we want to be spending our time. Is, well, we don't, but that's where we need to be spending our time. Is that on the phone? That
and Tower Hamlets on fan of yours at the moment. I won't go there. Right, but Abigail, and hello, Abigail, thanks for joining us. My husband can't do any of these things, spoiled boy, but more importantly, absolutely awesome what you said. Totally agree. Do you do that currently by video or face-to-face, or who does that in the business?
So we do it face-to-face. We, up until about 6 months ago, we did it entirely in-house. So our property managers would actually contact a tenant. It would actually be something separate to the check-in. So we try and line it up as close to the check-in or same time as we could. But we used to do it in-house with our property manager. And the nice thing is also that gave the property manager the opportunity to meet the tenant face-to-face right at the start of the tenancy. So again, it was that personal thing of rather being this like faceless property manager at the end of an email address. This was a person they'd met. So we found the interaction between our property managers and tenants was much better as a result. We have, like, as I said, we have sort of this year now outsourced that. We looked at two options. Our plumbing company that do our gas safeties, they were happy to roll that service out for us at a small addition to the gas safety cost. But when we looked at it, just transactionally didn't make sense because we have to do the gas safety a couple of days before they move in. So, but then actually we had a chat with our inventory clerks, and we've now sort of packaged that into our inventory clerk service. We pay, that isn't a cost passed on to our clients in our case, as I've touched on, because of the fees we earn. We've basically said to our inventory clerk, you bill us X amount per check-in for delivering this service. But it's an easy add-on for him. He's already there. He's paid to do the check-in, check-out, and the inventory. So the core time that he's there is already paid for. And then we will pay for the extra. It's typically about 20 minutes because most tenants will have some knowledge. And if a tenant goes, oh, look, don't worry, I know I need to put drain cleaner down once a month. Great, on to the next one. We do have tenants who know how to bleed radiators and balance boilers. And, we're like, great, you know how to do it. Cool, show me. And then you quickly know if they do or not. But yeah, that's how we did it. We did it originally in-house. We now outsource it just because of the volume that we're doing on it now. But But yeah, that works great for us. And actually having that chat with our inventory clerk brought other things out of that. So our inventory clerk said, well, look, if I'm going to do that for you and I'm already doing the check-in, I've been thinking about basically having like a sort of emergency kit that I turn up for all check-ins. It's got like spare sink plugs and spare smoke alarm batteries and some spare light bulbs on me. And like, so that I can sort, if I turn up to do an inventory and check-in, I can sort those bits either before the tenant arrives or whatever. What do you think of that? And I'll just add it on the bill if I need, at cost, or, the small markup, but won't charge for the labor. I'll just, kitchen sink plug, £5. And we were like, yeah, amazing. Absolutely. We'd much rather you solve that little problem there and again, deliver that really nice tenant experience, that they get the property that they were expecting, the way they were expecting it on the day they move in, rather than you sorting these things out for them still a week later. And yeah, everyone wins. We've taken that off our plate. But to keep the personal touch, like I said, what we did like was the fact that our property managers got to meet the people. What we now do is towards the end of that tutorial, the inventory clerk will now FaceTime our property manager. And we'll wrap it up by doing a FaceTime with the tenants, with our property manager, and with them going, right, I'm here with the tenants. We've just finished the maintenance check-in. They're really happy. Just wanted you guys all to meet each other. So it's a chance. Again, it brings personality, brings a person into the transaction rather than it being this faceless person that the tenant can just rant at through an email when something goes wrong. And also it's a chance to go, look, we have found this issue, which is something I can't deal with today. Can you get on the case? Great, not a problem, and they get that instant reassurance that that's been reported to the right person that's in hand. So that's how we deliver that now, Abigail. Hope that helps.
Brilliant. Well, that's exceptional. I'm very conscious of time and I know I'm taking a lot of your time. So let's talk a little bit about PropTech. Let's talk about a little bit about agents to help. We'll talk about agents together and then I'll leave you because I know you most probably got your daughter there as well. So very quickly, PropTech, what have you seen? What do you like? There's something called the depository, which rumor has it is very good. Some form of PropTech. So I know you're also co-chairman on a PropTech.
Yeah, I'm on the board.
What do you like?
Association. So look, I think
start with a depository. Let's help them. I don't know who owns that, but
whoever owns that. So look, the depository came out of we've been big advocates of the right tech embedded in your business the right way delivers for everyone. As I touched on before, the maintenance thing, really good products will deliver on all three sides of the triangle. It will deliver for your clients. It will deliver for your consumers, be that buyers or tenants, and it will deliver for you guys operationally as a business. The really good stuff delivers on all three sides. So I think, and what is nice, I think we are coming into agents' perception of PropTech is changing in terms of, I think, the mere suggestion of the word a year or two ago, and 99% of agents would roll their eyes because there was a flurry of quite poorly thought out products that either creating solutions to problems that didn't exist, or they were real solutions, but they just didn't understand the operational or regulatory burden that happens within an agency. So the products sounded good, but the delivery was poorer. I think what we're seeing now, and the journey that we've been on with the depository is the products over the years that have worked really well for us have all come out of us. We haven't started by going, right, we need a piece of PropTech. What we've started with is looking at our business, pulling our business apart and trying to find that missing triangle, trying to find the part of our agency service where we're not delivering on all three sides. And how do we fix that? Is that a manual fix? Is it a tech fix? Usually it's a tech fix that underpins a more human side of the business. And that's what the depository came out of. The depository came out of us constantly pulling our business apart. And 4 years ago, when we do it as a company, it's not just me and Anne doing it. We do this every year we sit down as a business and I will talk to every single one of my staff individually. We'll have a one-to-one and we will pick apart the business, their role, their job satisfaction, and also what patterns they have in their job. Like, something I will really drill down to in those meetings is, what do you keep having to do? What is something you have to repetitively do? What's a question you have to keep? Like, if you have to keep answering the same question to people, then there's something we're not explaining early enough in the process. You know, if all of our tenants come to us going, oh, why do you need this? Or is this what you need? Or, you know, why do you do it this way? Then we've clearly not explained that process better earlier on. So we'll look at that side of things, and then we'll look at the overall experience. And so that has identified various bits. And 4 years ago, what we unanimously agreed upon as a business was the end of tenancy process was our big failing in terms of how we like to operate as an agency. It was messy, it was cumbersome, it was a massive burden on us. It's a bit of a no-win situation as an agent, because you're that middleman. So whether you've got a landlord who wants to be a little bit, let's say, optimistic on the deductions, or you've got a tenant who feels like they should never be held accountable for anything, you're going to be in a situation there where you really can't win. So it was a lot of man hours, very little value back for the business. For a company that has a fantastic relationship with our tenants, what we found fascinating was even some of our biggest advocates, even a tenant who would be with us 3, 4, 5 years would refer 3, 4, 5 mates to us as other tenants to rent properties with us. We'd get to point notice served, and we'd serve notice, and we'd get this sort of like, oh, here we go. You've been nice for 4 years, but this is now where you're going to shaft us. That's why you've been nice, because now you're gonna absolutely take us to the cleaners over our deposit. And for us, you know, the depository, that was a massive part of the journey for the depository. Was I wanted to solve that problem. I didn't understand. I understood why people feel like that. I've been renting myself for 22 years and counting. God knows, I've been with pretty much every different type of agent and landlord out there. So, you know, whether you're relying on Chinese whispers or reputation from other people, or you've had the experience yourself, once you've had a bad end of tenancy experience, it does taint how you view that process and the people in it going forward. But for us, you know, again, it was that triangle thing. You know, how do we create a much better consumer journey for tenants? How do we get rid of these hours of zero revenue tasks that we do? Again, there's a tenant perception that when you take deductions from a deposit, somehow you as an agent are benefiting massively from that money that is deducted. And I know some agents earn a bit of commission on that, but by and large, that money does not benefit the agent. It goes into the landlord's pocket, or it pays contractors for the repairs. So it just, like I said, it presented that triangle that we always look for. And so that's where we went from, and, you know, and so we approached it from the 3 different angles. And from an agency, you know, we worked out that for us, I think we averaged about 3 man hours per tenancy. Talking to people like yourself and other people in the industry at the time, we felt that actually the industry average was probably closer to sort of 4 hours. So that was a really nice, meaty sort of workload for us to try and deliver some digital efficiency for. And you know, that's what we've done. We've already reduced, like I said, for us it was 3 hours. So we've already reduced that 3 man hours down to around 30 to 40 minutes.
Wow.
And you know, we're working on some bits and pieces now. Within the next 6 to 12 months, we expect to get that down to under 20 minutes a transaction.
So if people want to find out a bit more, where can they do that, please?
So best place to go is just go to the depository website. So the depository, ARY, not ORY. So it's thedepository.com. Go on there. You'll find lots of information. You can submit a little inquiry on there for us to get in touch. I mean, equally, reach out to me or Carla, who works with me on Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn. We're not precious about how you reach out. We do typically sort of 3 types of demos. We've got a sort of 10-minute, very quick overview, a sort of 30-minute light, so more in depth, but still relatively sort of overarching overview of the platform. And then we do a sort of 45-minute to an hour demo, which is a complete end-to-end demonstration of the whole consumer journey from notice through to refund and what that looks like for the 3 stakeholders in that process. So that's what we wanted to deliver for us. And then the tenant journey was a really fascinating one for us, because I've tried engaging with tenants different ways over the years. I was involved with an organization called the Tenant's Voice. It's still in existence now, but it's actually changed now. It's been acquired by a business to run for a different purpose. But I was involved with that heavily for sort of 2 or 3 years. And what I loved about that was it was about educating tenants about their role, about helping them understand not just their rights, but their responsibilities as well. This thing that, being a tenant is not singular position. Not all landlords are bad. Not all agents are bad. In fact, good landlords and good agents are amazing, and bring a really fair and professional process to it. And what I learned through that journey, because a lot of what we tried to do was educating tenants, the fundamental thing I learned about that was that tenants don't actually want to be educated. And let me give that some context, because that sounds really harsh. Tenants don't want to learn what their rights are. They don't want to learn property law. I think for us as agents, and for most landlords, where this is our primary source of income, we struggle to keep up with all the rights and regulations are. And I think to expect a tenant to educate themselves on that depth of knowledge just so that they would have that knowledge to back an unreasonable request or action by an agent at some point in the future, I think is fundamentally unrealistic. Really what tenants want is they just want to feel like they are being treated in a transparent, fair, compliant way. They want to know that they're being treated the same way as the 10 tenants before them and the 10 tenants after them. And they want to know where they are in the process. And I think the interesting thing was, from an agent's perspective, knowing how regulated the end of tenancy and deposit space is, that doesn't match up with a tenant's perception of that end of tenancy process. They still feel like they're living in the Wild West a little bit, and at the whim of an unscrupulous sort of party driving that transaction. So what we wanted to do is to bring transparency to that. So what our platform does is it helps tenants understand what that journey is from notice to refund. And it's not just, oh, you move out and you give me my money back. There's a lot to it, and what our platform does is, whilst it simultaneously makes that very visual, they've either got a timeline if they're on a big screen, or it's a wheel on a mobile device that they work their way around. But they now understand, I have to schedule a clean, I have to book my checkout, and then the checkout report gets issued and that gets reviewed, and then I get proposed deductions and blah, blah, blah. And then with the deduction stage, that in particular, we really drilled down, because that process for most agents and landlords, from a tenant perspective, is an emotional journey. It's an emotional thing, and it shouldn't be. It should be a contractual, evidenced situation. And so that's what we've looked to do. We've looked to take away those long emails that landlords or agents send out with this, that often will open with, oh, it was so disappointing to see how you returned the property, which obviously always kicks everything off the wrong way, and then they get this long list of things, maybe with a document attached to it. And so what we wanted to do was get away from that. We wanted to get away from all the waffle. We don't want that. We don't care if a landlord or agent is disappointed in a tenant. It's not relevant to the conversation. The fact is, under the terms of the contract and under the framework of UK legislation, are those tenants liable to have certain things deducted from their deposit? And are the agent and landlord able to substantiate that with nice, clean evidence? And what we're seeing, because we present it like that, because we're getting rid of all that emotion, that opinion at the start of it, what we're seeing with the deductions in our platform is they're being agreed faster and at a higher percentage of the proposed amount than they would normally be. Because guess what? It's very hard to contest something when you're told that a property wasn't clean, and right there on the screen, you can open your check-in report, which shows that it was immaculate, and your checkout report, which shows it was filthy. And there's a couple of uploaded high-res photos of it. And there's a contractor invoice there of 180 quid, and you're being asked to pay 180 quid. Guess what? That's really hard to contest as a tenant, because you're presented with really cold, hard facts. Here's the, this is the clause that tells you should have done X, Y, Z. Here's the evidence that you haven't. And here's the cost that's incurred. And so you don't get, this back and forward. It's a pretty direct, like, yeah, fine, move on to the next one. So, yeah.
Thank you. So, quickly, agents here to help.
So the agents here to help, obviously this came out very much out of the crisis, with a lot of agents wondering what to do, a lot of consumers out there unsure about what was going on. And I think it just gave us an opportunity. I think for a lot of agents like myself, a lot of smaller agents, there's a lot of stuff we know we should be doing. There's a lot of stuff we want to be doing. But as a single operation, it's really hard to take on board. I've wanted to do regular content for probably 5 years. Have I managed to do that? No, because as a single operation, it feels like it becomes overwhelming. There are some great solutions now, like, the guys at Property Video Solutions or Leo Media, they're fantastic. If you want to get them engaged to deliver, that professional content month in, month out, they deliver really amazing price point service on that. But for a lot of agents, I think before they get to that stage, I think they want to try it a little bit more informally at the moment, but it's having that discipline to produce a bit of content a day or every other day is tough. We all know that's really tough to do. And particularly when you suddenly go into your peak season or you get caught off guard by a sudden sales boom off the back of a global pandemic, you end up having your attention pulled away to your primary thing, which is transactions and generating business. And I think what was interesting with agents here to help was what made me start it was there was a really nice coming together of our industry. I feel like our industry has, as an organization, as a body, I feel like there's been quite a transformational shift over the last sort of 3-4 months over this pandemic. It's made a lot of agents sit up and realize that, yes, whilst we compete with our direct competitors, as an industry, we've got a lot to learn from one another. And also from a consumer perspective, the insights that a good agent in Yorkshire has about a sales process or picking an agent is just as applicable to a consumer looking for a good agent in London. So why not pool that knowledge? Why not bring a bunch of agents together who are consumer minded, who are professionally minded, but how great to be able to do 1 or 2 pieces of content a month, but be in this community that is creating 30, 50, 70 pieces of content a month. And what does that give to the consumer? So, I think that was the nice thing. It was an opportunity that I don't think would have arisen in other circumstances. And it was great to see loads of people rally around the idea, loads of agents get involved. Obviously as agents have got busy and sort of gone back to their day-to-day business and getting that money banked, it's understandable. We've seen some of the engagement from agents drop out on that a little bit, but that's fine. We still are producing content, and that still keeps ticking along. And again, we know there'll be ebbs and flows. There'll be quiet times when it will pick up and busy times when it goes off. But it's just a really nice, easy way for us as an industry to come together and deliver something really tangible for the consumer, where there's no buy-in, there's no hard sell. but a consumer can wade their way now through, God, I don't even know how many videos we've got on there now. It's got to be over 50.
Fantastic.
Consumers can now go through there and educate themselves on everything from HMO laws to, like I said, picking a good agent, or, tips on getting your property ready before going to market, to tackling, challenging tenants in a managed property or rent arrears. And yeah, I think it's a great resource that doesn't come under a brand or an umbrella or some sort of sales pitch.
Brilliant. And again, for agents that are watching here that want to get involved, they want to help educate consumers, again, is there a place that they can go?
Yeah, I mean, we've got the website, so Agents Here to Help. I think it's .co.uk. I think it's .co.uk. If not, it might be .com. But that is very largely headed up, sort of Mal McCallion and Jane Gardner very much sort of taken the charge on that one. They're sort of front and center. We're now doing our weekly little talk shows, I think on Friday afternoons, about things. And we'd really like to have different agents on that panel each week, rather than the same ones doing it again. So I did the first one, and we had some great other agents on there. Maxine Lester was on there, and yeah, so and we've got another one this Friday with different agents on there. So do get in touch. It's a bit of fun, but yeah, again, engage with us on social media. We've got all the social media channels. Hit up, reach out to any of us directly on LinkedIn. It's all very friendly. We've got a closed members group on Facebook, so you can, if you find our members sort of page on Facebook, you can submit an inquiry on there. It will ask you to fill out a few questions just to establish who you are and that you meet the sort of membership criteria, which is very simply that you're an estate agent that is looking to deliver educational content to the consumer.
Brilliant.
But you get in touch, the more agents, the better. It doesn't matter what part of the country you are. It doesn't matter if you're a one-man band or you've got 1,000 staff across 50 branches. We'd love to have representation across all geographical patches and all sort of scales and models of agency.
Fantastic. Great. And I got involved as well, and I did a live with a couple of agents and Mal. I think it was a day, I think it was stamp duty actually got announced.
There you go.
So I was on, and it was excellent. And I agree. I think it's lovely now to see, the industry coming together. David Mintz has just joined us, and I think the job that David's doing with Simon and the people they're getting on and helping people, whether it's for suppliers or, for different industry people, that's helping people. And it's great. There's so much content that people want to help. And likewise, I've got involved as a founder of Agents Together, that's come out of, what's happened in COVID as well.
Yeah,
and I know we've got. Thank you. Yeah, no, we've got over.
It really tackles the mental health issues, because that, when we did Agents Here to Help, that was very much about creating a channel for the consumer. But, it is a challenging industry. There are a lot of pressures doing this job, and it doesn't matter whether you're, a first-time junior employee or you're an owner director. There are daily pressures with that, and often doing a job where we are often. What's the word I'm looking for? But we are not seen in the best light by the general public or the media. I think sometimes it can feel as an agent that you're, particularly if you're trying to do things right, it can sometimes feel that you're really fighting an uphill struggle, and mentally that can be really tough. So, it was actually great to see Agents Together come out. I think the core of what you guys are looking to do there, that sort of mental health support, but also just those sort of friendly coaching services from you guys. But also, I know you've got some really great agents. I think Peter Lawrence did one the other day.
Yeah, Peter Lawrence did one the other day. I mean, we're getting so. I think we've got 18 mentors now. We've had over 70 mentees, either doing speedy mentoring or they've got long-term mentoring as well. Which is great to see. And actually, for gratitude from the people, knowing that there's, I suppose, some form of charity organisation out there that they can go to and give them the help, and that they don't need to be alone. That's great as well.
Yeah, and I think that all, again, the timing's really right. Like I said, this is come at a really good time, because there has definitely been a coming together of our industry. And I think, I've had some great relationships with some agents I really admire of different sizes over the last few years. And we've had that really nice balance of, some of them are direct competitors. Some of them are agents that we would go up against valuations against, but it doesn't matter. What I like is it doesn't really matter. We can still knowledge share. We can still talk about ideas we're having, things we've tried, things that have failed, things that we want to do in the future. And I think that acceptance that whilst we might go out and compete in front of the consumer, that doesn't necessarily mean that there has to be that sort of Machiavellian sort of duplicitous competition that happens behind the scenes. We can actually compete, but compete to be better. Let's push each other to be better agents, to learn new ways to do things, to make our business better, deliver a better service, raise the public perception and the media's perception of our industry. Show those no-sayers that actually, yes, there's always going to be rogues. There's rogues in every single industry. Christ, we have rogue royals, for God's sake, let alone rogue businesses. So, that's just human nature. But I think fundamentally as an industry, when I've been in the industry coming up 20 years now. And when I look at what consumers and clients get as a service now compared to what they got from most agents 20 years ago, I don't even feel like they're the same profession. It's a light year away. And I think, what's really exciting is where we're going to be in another 5, 10, 15 years with this sort of positive approach about knowledge sharing, best practice sharing and skill learning. And, I think that's really exciting, and that underpinned with regulatory changes and some other cool new tech that will come in and help that ongoing evolution. I think in the next 5 to 10 years, I think we can really dramatically change the average public perception of what our industry is. And that for me is really exciting. If we can get out of that top 3 list of least trusted or most resented or most disliked, whatever, we're always in the same one, always with politicians and media, funnily enough. So there we go. But yeah, I think that is really exciting for us as a profession. And I've definitely noticed it with online calls like this, but also, and obviously we haven't had any of these during lockdown, but with industry events now, I found the ones that I've gone to in the last sort of year to 2 years, there has been that dramatic shift of, agents just coming up and going, oh, really love how you guys do this. Can you tell me a little bit more about, why you started doing that or how you came up with that idea and blah, blah, blah. And yeah, just shooting the breeze. And I think that's really lovely. And I'm very keen to see that evolution of our industry continue.
Brilliant. Look, you have been an incredible guest. You've been so generous with your time. I can't believe how quickly it's gone. And I could carry on speaking. I'm sure the audience could carry on listening to the gold that you're giving and the quality you're giving. So thank you so much for your incredible time, for
thank you
what you shared, for what you shared today. I mean, there's some absolute gold in there. So again, get in touch with Kristjan if you want to know more about the depository, if you want to get involved with Agents Here to Help, if you want any information on Agents Together, get in touch with me and I'll put you in the direction of where you need to be.
Not just about the depository as well. If agents that I'm on LinkedIn, Facebook, whatever, seriously, any agents out there, you want to reach out to me, you want to ask something, you want to run an idea past me, get in touch. I won't always be able to reply straight away. I can be quite busy, but I will always get back at some point. And I'm always happy to bounce ideas, have a natter, knowledge share, pull something apart. Don't be afraid. It doesn't have to be about signing up with a product or service that we do. Always happy to just have a bit of a chat.
Phenomenal. Kristjan, you've been a superstar. Thanks so much for your time. Have a brilliant afternoon. Thank you. Thank you, everybody, for watching it, whether it's now or on replay. Really appreciate it. Have a great afternoon, everybody. Morning, evening, whenever you watch it. Bye.